time, boy, it's time to break it down. Grab a mic, kill the stage, yeah, second nature now. Mama said I'd make a prayer, I told her I made a vow. Just to wait around, in the year I'll put her in a house on the shore.
Hey, what's up everybody? This is Nightwing2303 from kicksoncourt.com. Today we have a performance review on the adidas adiZero Crazy Light 2. I know that everybody's expecting these to perform well, and I'm pleased to announce that they actually do. This is a complete upgrade, especially compared to the original Crazy Light. So without wasting any more of your time, let's go ahead and get straight into it. Traction on the original Crazy Light was already very good, and it had a very sticky type of rubber. This type of setup is, I wouldn't say it was better, but it worked just as good, and if not better in some situations. Basically, instead of having the spinal column along the base of the shoe and then certain areas that had the spiral, this one has a full-on multi-directional spiral pattern throughout, mostly targeted in the forefoot section, so you have your medial and lateral coverage, and then the rest of it spans out along the forefoot and the heel for perfect front to back coverage. So because these are so lightweight and it's pretty much targeted towards quicker players or players that do prefer to have a lightweight shoe, this sneaker was able to keep up with me no problem. Front to back was absolutely fantastic. Medial, lateral side, it doesn't really matter what you were doing. You could be curling around screens at your fastest pace and this shoe will keep up with you. I only had one time where I slipped, and it wasn't even a true slip, but it was like right around here, and I just put a lot of torque on it, and the court that we were playing on at that time, it was fairly clean. It just wasn't like a recently refinished court, so you know, the finish on it was pretty dull and things like that. So basically when I had made a move, I just kind of slightly maneuvered a little bit as far as like the grip itself, and that was pretty much the only section. Like I said, it was like right around here, and that's right where that spiral is, and all it did was cause some slight hesitation, which is a downside, but again, it wasn't caused by the shoe itself, because that was the only court or surface that actually occurred on. All the other courts that I played on, the traction was absolutely phenomenal. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, but this is probably as close as you can get without being perfect. As far as cushion is concerned, you basically have a full-length molded injected EVA foam from heel to forefoot, and then you also have two additional options, just like you did with the original Crazy Light. You have a very lightweight foam-based insole or insert, and then you also have the PU base, which is a little bit thicker, and this one provides a little bit more absorption upon impact. I personally did like this one. It made the shoe fit a little bit differently. This one sits you down a little bit lower since the foam is very fluffy, so you kind of press into it a lot more than this one does. But overall, this is the best option out of the two, and it works very well, especially with the way that the shoe is constructed. Anybody that has the original Crazy Light is going to already be used to this, but basically the entire upper and the entire bottom is attached to the sprint frame itself, which is that black part that you see there. So without that slightly thicker insole, the PU insole, you could definitely feel the sprint frame underneath your foot. So I would recommend using the more cushioned insole. That's what I personally preferred. Now, as far as the cushion itself, it basically felt just like the original Crazy Light. I don't know if the foam was modified at all, but basically the entire heel shape was pretty much dead on as far as the original version. Same exact shape, size, and all of that stuff. It is connected along the arch here where it was a little bit more spaced out and it was broken up. You could see more of the sprint frame under there, so that was an additional piece. And then right here, the foam on this side is just sticks out just a little bit further than the original version, so it gives you a little bit more stability. As far as actual cushion is concerned, upon impact, the back of the heel compresses a lot and it feels awesome. This is probably my favorite foam that Adidas uses. I really did like the adidas adiZero Rose 2.5. It was not as firm as the 2.0, but this is just, for me personally, just something that I prefer over even the 2.5. What I definitely liked is that it went from a very consistent cushion in the heel to a more slimmed down effect in the forefoot, so it kept you low to the ground, got you good court feel, but it kept its coverage and it wasn't too mushy. So it didn't really matter where I was going, what I was doing. The shoe stayed comfortable, it absorbed a ton of impact, and again, I would recommend using the polyurethane insole versus the fluffy kind of lightweight foam, just to kind of cancel out that feeling that you would get from the sprint frame itself, which is underfoot. And again, it's constructed just like the other units with the sprint frame, so you have that heel notch cut out there, so your heel is directly resting on the foam itself, and then up at the forefoot it pretty much stops right where the stitch pattern is, and everything else beyond that up to the front of the toe is that EVA foam as well. So I think cushion was great, especially for a foam, and I liked its consistency a lot, so it gave you plenty of court feel and cushion at the same time. So the materials, basically you have sprint frame on the bottom portion along with your EVA midsole and your solid rubber outsole. The entire upper is made up of sprint web and mesh. Now the sprint web on this version here is 10 times better and stronger and lighter than the original Crazy Light, and I thought that this had much more support with the way that it was not only constructed but with the materials that they use themselves. The original had a fabric based sprint web, and this one is more of a plastic or TPU based, so this stuff is just incredibly stronger. The only downside is that it does take break-in time, so about 5-6 plus hours and you're going to be fine. Up until then you will expect to have some pinching right around this section with the material pressing into your foot. If you do wear a thicker sock, you're going to get a more narrow fit, and these are already run very, very narrow, so just keep that in mind, but don't be too hesitant as far as purchasing, because this is definitely a much improved version of the Crazy Light versus the original version. The overall fit of the shoe is true to size, especially from a lengthwise standpoint. The forefoot, however, runs extremely narrow, so you will get a lot of pressure right here. Again, it's going to take a few hours to break these in. Once you do that, it's not too bad. However, I wouldn't recommend playing with these for an extended amount of time. So if you're a pickup player and you play for 3+ hours, you're going to feel your foot kind of expand from the heat and everything like that, and so the pressure is just going to increase the longer that you play in these. If you play in a regulated game, or you just play for an hour or two every other day, or whatever your schedule might be, this is definitely going to be a perfect option. Just keep in mind that right here is very, very narrow, even for a narrow footer. If you have wide feet, recommend trying these on beforehand and possibly even going half a size up. If you do purchase these online and you do have wide feet, and you know you have wide feet, that's a risk that you're going to be willing to take. So best case, try these on in store. They should be available at most Foot Lockers and adidas performance retailers. So the rest of the fit I thought was awesome. The sprint frame is highly contoured around your foot, and it's a really weird feeling when you put them on, and I had that strange feeling every time I put them on. But once you start playing in them, that becomes a non-factor, and you don't even notice that this is there, which is pretty much perfect. That's exactly what you want out of a shoe, is to not even realize that you're wearing one. Now, the original had a lot of pinching with these eyelets. I have heard that some people that play in these have experienced the same thing. Personally, I have not, so I did not have any pinching around these eyelets. However, I do think that they should do something different other than these rivets, because I can see why people would have some sort of pinching, because it's metal and it's, you know, in there, so that could cause some irritation. I think that it's supportive enough here with the layers that they use that they could probably just punch a hole out and just leave it at that, and I don't think that this material would rip. But that's just my opinion. I don't know if that's fact. They probably wear tested this many times and came up that this is the best solution for that particular issue. Other than that, I think that the fit itself is awesome. It's one of those shoes that wraps around your foot perfectly, and being that it's so light, it actually needs to do that, because if you have a sloppy fitting shoe that is extremely lightweight, you're not going to get enough support out of that shoe. It's not going to be a one-to-one fit, and you could potentially risk having some sort of injury. So this shoe, 10 times better than the Crazy Light 1 in almost every single category. So ventilation is the one category that this shoe does lack compared to the original. It is full-on mesh along the upper with the sprint web. However, the only open areas that you receive are these 4 chambers right here. That's all the ventilation you get. So at the end of the night, inside the shoe, along with my socks, were pretty much soaked. So I would have liked to have seen some more open pieces here. However, keep these areas here closed, because that was probably their mistake last time, is that they made everything open, so it was a very, very ventilated shoe, but there was hardly any support in the shoe whatsoever, and the fabric itself was very weak in my opinion. So this shoe here, it definitely fixed those support issues, and so you do have a lack of ventilation because of that. Inside of the shoe, it is lined with this kind of nylon material. Hopefully you'll be able to see that, but that's basically what is restricting the airflow in the mesh. So it's a give or take thing. If you really need ventilation, that's really up to you, and that's your personal preference. However, I'd much rather have support than ventilation myself. So support in the original Crazy Light, in my personal opinion, was just awful. I rolled my ankle in those things about 5 different times, and I just couldn't see myself playing in them anymore after that. It was just, for me, a dangerous shoe. This shoe is completely different. They've upgraded everything. Like I said earlier, the material is thinner and lighter, but it's 10 times stronger than what they used beforehand because it's plastic based with the TPU. Again, going back into the insides, it's all supported along the eyelets, and then inside the shoe itself they have that nylon lining, and then they even went a step further and added that lining from here wrapping all the way to the toe on this side. So this section is not going to fold or buckle. It's very supportive material inside the shoe, so they really worked on the interior and the support, which I think is great. The sprint frame does exactly what you want it to do, which is support your lateral side and offer free range of motion on the medial. Because it is broken down right here, you get even more range of motion than you have in any other sprint frame that they've used. And then the extended section on the lateral side gives you even more support on that section than any sprint frame that they've used before. So support, in my opinion, complete upgrade, and I just absolutely loved it. It was definitely a nice thing to have, especially after playing in the original. I think that this is definitely Light done right. Alright guys, so that pretty much takes care of the review on the adidas adiZero Crazy Light 2. Like I said earlier, this is a fantastic performer, especially comparing it to the original version. Just the support alone is a complete upgrade, and it's exactly what this shoe needed. The fact that they were able to shave off some ounces is just amazing, because I would have never thought that making a shoe lighter would have been stronger and more supportive than what the original one was. And you know, the materials that they used beforehand were extremely weak and soft, and these guys here are just 10 times better. If you're going to choose a Crazy Light to play in, you have to choose the 2, because it's just a better shoe overall, and you definitely reduce that risk of potential injury. So again, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for all your support. If you'd like to see the performance scores or ratings on these, you can go to my site, kicksoncourt.com. And until next time guys, have a good one.
On the shore or on the coast or an island, and every month I'd hop on a plane to fly in and take a shot for whatever she wants to buy. Yeah, she made me who I am. I got the heart of a lion.